The Battle of Britain was not just another war movie, it was a death-defying aerial ballet that nearly killed its cast and crew, bankrupted its studio, and changed aviation filmmaking forever. What audiences witnessed on screen, epic dogfights between Spitfires and Messerschmitts, was nothing compared to the real-life chaos behind the scenes. Vintage aircraft crashed, actors nearly plummeted to their deaths, and producers fought with directors over every frame. The production became so dangerous that insurance companies refused to underwrite the aerial sequences. Today, we are climbing into the cockpit of Hollywood's most ambitious war film to reveal 20 shocking facts about the Battle of Britain that will change how you see this classic forever. And stay tuned for our bonus fact, a secret so explosive it was kept under wraps for over 50 years. Strap in and hit that subscribe button as we take off into the classified files of cinematic history. Number 1. The fatal crash that ended a career. It was not just acting, it was survival. During filming of the massive aerial sequences, stunt pilot and former Battle of Britain veteran Tim Moore lost control of his vintage Spitfire during a low-altitude pass over the English countryside. The aircraft spiraled uncontrollably before crashing into a field, killing Moore instantly. What made this tragedy particularly devastating was that Moore was not just performing a stunt, he was demonstrating a maneuver he had actually used during the real Battle of Britain in 1940. The crash investigation revealed a critical structural failure in the aircraft's wing, a problem that had been overlooked during restoration. Director Guy Hamilton halted all aerial filming for a week as the remaining vintage aircraft underwent emergency inspections. The incident cast a dark shadow over the production, with several pilots refusing to continue. We were making a movie about heroes, and then we became casualties ourselves, recalled crew member Michael Manning in his memoir. The line between fiction and reality vanished in that moment. Number 2, the star who refused to fly. Michael Caine was not just playing a pilot, he was terrified of flying. The actor, cast as Squadron Leader Canfield, flatly refused to get inside any of the vintage aircraft, even when they were safely on the ground. This created massive logistical problems for director Guy Hamilton, who had planned extensive in-cockpit footage. What audiences did not know was that many of Caine's flying scenes were actually filmed with him sitting in a mock-up cockpit surrounded by blue screens, with the aerial sequences added later in post-production. This was revolutionary for 1968, but also incredibly expensive. Caine's refusal led to heated arguments with producers who threatened to replace him. "I told them I'd walk away unless they found another solution," Caine later admitted. "I wasn't going to die for a movie, especially not in a plane. That was older than me." The compromise cost the production an additional £200,000, nearly 10% of the total budget, but kept Caine in the film. Number 3, the secret government interference. The Battle of Britain was not just a film, it was a diplomatic incident. What audiences did not know was that the British government secretly intervened in the production, demanding changes to how German forces were portrayed. Officials from the Foreign Office were concerned that the film might damage relations with West Germany, which had become an important NATO ally. The government's specific demand reduced the Nazi salutes and evil German tropes that were prominent in the original script. Producer S. Benjamin Fiss fought these changes, arguing that historical accuracy was being sacrificed for political expediency. What resulted was a compromise that left neither side satisfied. The German characters remained antagonistic, but with more nuanced motivations than originally planned. "We were making history, not rewriting it," Fiss complained in a letter to his investors. But apparently, some history is more acceptable than others. The government's interference was kept secret until declassified documents revealed it decades later. Number 4, the multi-million-pound mess. The Battle of Britain was not just expensive, it was a financial catastrophe. What audiences did not realize was that the film's budget ballooned from the original £3 million to nearly £6.5 million, equivalent to over £100 million today, making it one of the most expensive British films ever produced at that time. The financial hemorrhage was primarily caused by the aerial sequences. Each vintage aircraft cost thousands to maintain and operate, with some requiring complete rebuilds. Insurance companies refused to cover the flying sequences, leaving producers financially exposed to every potential accident. The production's money problems became so severe that at one point, director Guy Hamilton had to halt filming for 2 weeks while producers scrambled for additional funding. "We were spending money faster than we could raise it," recalled production supervisor Brian Smith. "Every day we weren't filming, we were still burning through cash just to keep those aircraft in flying condition." The film's commercial failure nearly bankrupted its primary financial backer, United Artists. Number 5, the cast brawl that erupted on set. Tensions did not just simmer on the set of the Battle of Britain, they exploded. During a break in filming, actors Michael Caine and Robert Shaw engaged in a heated argument that escalated into physical violence. The incident began when Shaw, a method actor, remained in character as a stern squadron leader and began ordering around crew members between takes. Caine, already frustrated with the production's delays, confronted Shaw about his behavior. According to multiple witnesses, Shaw responded by shoving Caine, who retaliated with a punch. The two actors had to be separated by crew members as filming descended into chaos. Director Guy Hamilton shut down production for the remainder of the day. They were like two alpha dogs fighting over territory. He later recalled, "The problem was both of them thought they owned the set." Remarkably, their on-screen chemistry remains convincing, a testament to both actors' professionalism despite their mutual animosity that continued throughout filming. Number 6, the environmental disaster caused by filming. The Battle of Britain did not just leave a mark on cinema history, it left a scar on the English countryside. What audiences did not know was that the production caused significant environmental damage during filming of the airfield sequences. To create authentic-looking wartime conditions, the production team dug trenches, destroyed hedgerows, and even burned several acres of grassland. Local conservationists and farmers were outraged, with one landowner threatening legal action over the destruction of his property. The situation escalated when the film's special effects team detonated explosives that contaminated a nearby stream with chemicals, killing hundreds of fish. The production was forced to pay substantial compensation and fund extensive restoration work after filming concluded. "We were so focused on historical accuracy that we forgot we were damaging actual history," admitted producer S. Benjamin Fizz in a later interview. The incident led to new guidelines for film productions working in environmentally sensitive areas, guidelines that still influence location filming today. Number 7, the historical inaccuracies that caused outrage. The Battle of Britain was not just a war film, it was a historical controversy. What audiences did not realize was that numerous veterans of the actual battle were outraged by the film's liberties with historical facts. The most significant criticism centered on the film's portrayal of Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding, played by Laurence Olivier. Real-life veterans argued that Olivier's characterization made Dowding appear overly emotional and indecisive, contradicting the stoic leadership he demonstrated during the actual battle. "They turned a lion into a lamb," complained one veteran group in a letter to the Times newspaper. The filmmakers defended their choices, arguing that dramatic license was necessary for cinematic storytelling. "We weren't making a documentary," director Guy Hamilton insisted. "We were creating drama based on history." The controversy became so heated that several veterans groups called for boycotts of the film, though these ultimately had little impact on its commercial performance. Number 8, the dangerous stunt that nearly killed a lead actor. Robert Shaw did not just act in dangerous scenes, he lived them. During filming of a sequence where his character has to escape from a burning aircraft, a special effects malfunction nearly cost Shaw his life. The planned, controlled fire erupted unexpectedly, engulfing the cockpit faster than anticipated. Shaw, trapped inside the mock-up aircraft, suffered severe burns to his hands and arms before crew members could free him. The actor was rushed to hospital but returned to set just days later, refusing to use a stunt double for the remaining scenes. What made this incident particularly shocking was that it happened after safety inspectors had approved the effects. "We trusted the experts and they nearly got Robert killed," fumed producer S. Benjamin Fizz. The film's insurance company launched an investigation that revealed numerous safety shortcuts had been taken to save time and money. Shaw's injuries were more severe than publicly acknowledged at the time, and he continued to suffer from the burns for years afterward. Number 9, the massive aircraft shortage that almost doomed the production. The Battle of Britain was not just challenging to film, it was nearly impossible due to aircraft shortages. What audiences did not know was that the production faced a critical shortage of authentic World War II aircraft, particularly German Messerschmitts. By the late 1960s, most of these vintage planes had been scrapped, preserved in museums, or were in non-flying condition. The producers launched a global search, eventually acquiring aircraft from Spain, where they discovered that the Spanish Air Force was still operating versions of German World War II designs. These had to be extensively modified to resemble their German counterparts, a process that took months and cost millions. Even more challenging was finding enough British Spitfires and Hurricanes. The production team eventually located, purchased, and restored 12 Spitfires and 3 Hurricanes, many of which were in such poor condition they required complete rebuilds. "We were running an aviation museum, not a film set," joked director Guy Hamilton. The aircraft restoration became a film production in itself, documented in a separate behind-the-scenes feature that was rarely shown to audiences. Number 10, the secret political agenda behind the film. The Battle of Britain was not just entertainment, it was propaganda. What audiences did not realize was that the film received covert funding from the British government as part of a campaign to boost national pride during a period of economic decline and social unrest. The late 1960s saw Britain grappling with widespread strikes, devaluation of the pound, and diminishing international influence. The government's involvement was deliberately hidden from the public, with funds channeled through a shell corporation called British Heritage Productions. The arrangement allowed officials to claim they were supporting the film industry while actually advancing a political agenda. The film was designed to remind Britons of a time when they stood alone against tyranny and triumphed, revealed a declassified government memo from 1968. In an era of uncertainty, we need to reconnect with our finest hour. The political messaging was subtle but deliberate, emphasizing themes of unity, sacrifice, and national resilience that officials hoped would counter contemporary social divisions. Go ahead and like and subscribe because we are just getting to the most shocking secrets behind the Battle of Britain. The stories you have heard so far are nothing compared to what is coming next, from the Nazi consultant hired for authenticity to the secret message hidden in the aerial formations. Stick around, because the truth is more incredible than any fiction Hollywood could create. Number 11. The former Nazi hired as technical consultant. The Battle of Britain contained a shocking irony that audiences never knew. The film hired former Luftwaffe Colonel Adolf Galland as a technical consultant, a man who had actually fought against the RAF during the real Battle of Britain. Galland, one of Germany's most decorated World War II pilots, provided invaluable insights into German tactics and aircraft performance. What made this particularly controversial was that Galland remained unrepentant about his service to the Nazi regime, though he denied knowledge of war crimes. His presence on set created tension with British veterans working as consultants, some of whom refused to interact with him. Director Guy Hamilton defended the decision, arguing that authenticity required input from both sides. "We weren't making a judgment about war, we were recreating one," Hamilton explained. Galland knew things about German aircraft that no one else did. The collaboration was kept relatively quiet in publicity materials to avoid potential controversy, though Galland does appear briefly in the film as a German officer. Number 12. The real dogfight that broke out during filming. The Battle of Britain was not just simulating aerial combat, it accidentally created the real thing. During filming of a massive dogfight sequence over the English countryside, a miscommunication between ground control and the pilots resulted in 2 aircraft actually colliding in mid-air. What began as choreographed chaos suddenly became terrifyingly real. The collision involved a Spitfire and a Messerschmitt replica, with both aircraft sustaining significant damage. The pilots managed to land their crippled planes safely, but the incident led to an immediate suspension of all aerial sequences. An investigation revealed that inadequate communication protocols between the various aircraft teams had created the dangerous situation. "For a moment, we weren't making a movie anymore, we were in a real battle," recalled pilot John Smith in a later interview. "The adrenaline was real, the fear was real, and the danger was absolutely real. The incident was covered up by the studio to avoid negative publicity, with the damaged aircraft quickly repaired and returned to filming." Number 13. The secret message hidden in the aerial formations. The Battle of Britain contained a hidden message that audiences never detected. During the climactic aerial sequences, the aircraft formations occasionally spelled out letters and words visible only from specific camera angles. This was not just artistic license, it was a deliberate code created by director Guy Hamilton and his aerial coordinator. The messages included references to inside jokes, crew members' names, and even subtle political statements. In one scene, the German bombers briefly formed the shape of a swastika, a detail so fleeting that most viewers miss it entirely. In another, British fighters momentarily arranged themselves into the letter V for victory. "We were having fun with the endless hours of aerial filming," admitted Hamilton in a later interview. "If you looked closely enough, you could find our signatures in the sky." These hidden messages became a treasure hunt for aviation enthusiasts who spent years freeze-framing the film to discover all the secret formations. The most controversial formation, a brief FUCK WWII spelled out by German aircraft was reportedly removed before the film's theatrical release. Number 14. The actor who suffered a breakdown on set. The Battle of Britain did not just challenge its actors physically, it broke them mentally. What audiences did not know was that supporting actor Ian McShane suffered a nervous breakdown during filming, requiring medical treatment and a temporary departure from the production. McShane, playing a young pilot, became so immersed in his role that he began experiencing symptoms of what would now be recognized as PTSD. The breaking point came during filming of a particularly intense bombing sequence. McShane, trapped in a mock-up cockpit as explosions rocked the set, became hysterical and had to be physically removed by crew members. He was living the character's terror, not just acting it, recalled co-star Susanna York in a later interview. The incident was covered up by the studio, with McShane's absence explained as scheduling conflicts. He returned to filming 2 weeks later after treatment, but his role was significantly reduced to minimize his time in stressful situations. The line between acting and reality disappeared for him. Director Guy Hamilton later admitted, "We were asking too much of our actors." Number 15. The studio executive who tried to cancel the film. The Battle of Britain was not just supported by its studio, it was nearly destroyed by it. What audiences did not know was that midway through production, United Artists executive David V. Picker attempted to shut down the film entirely due to its spiraling costs and production delays. Picker flew to London with orders to either dramatically cut the budget or cancel the project altogether. The confrontation between Picker and director Guy Hamilton became legendary in industry circles. Hamilton, backed by his producers, refused to compromise on the scale of the aerial sequences, arguing that reducing them would betray the film's purpose. "We're not making the Battle of Britain on the cheap," Hamilton reportedly told Picker. "Either do it right or don't do it at all." What saved the film was an unlikely ally, James Bond producer Albert R. Broccoli, who convinced United Artists that the film's historical significance and potential international appeal justified the additional investment. Picker reluctantly agreed to continue funding, but imposed strict oversight on all further expenditures. The film's eventual commercial failure vindicated Picker's concerns, though many critics acknowledged its technical achievements. Number 16. The historical figure who refused to be portrayed. The Battle of Britain was not just about casting actors, it was about convincing historical figures to participate. What audiences did not know was that several real-life veterans of the battle refused to have their stories included in the film or be portrayed on screen. The most notable refusal came from Wing Commander Douglas Bader, one of the most famous RAF pilots of the war. Bader, who had lost both legs in a pre-war flying accident but returned to combat, objected to how the film planned to depict his relationship with Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding. The historical reality was that Bader had been critical of Dowding's tactics and had contributed to his removal from command, a fact the film either downplayed or ignored. "They wanted to make me a hero without showing the difficult parts of the story," Bader later explained. "History isn't that simple. The filmmakers eventually created a composite character based on multiple pilots rather than specifically portraying Bader. This refusal forced significant rewrites of the script and delayed production by several weeks as new character arcs were developed." Number 17. The groundbreaking special effects that actually worked too well. The Battle of Britain did not just use special effects, it revolutionized them. What audiences did not know was that the film's visual effects team developed techniques so realistic that they caused confusion among actual military personnel. The most significant innovation was a new process for combining miniature footage with full-scale aerial photography. The effects team, led by Tom Howard, created detailed 1/24th scale models of aircraft that were photographed against blue skies and then composited with footage of real aircraft. The results were so convincing that during test screenings, several RAF veterans questioned whether some sequences were actual wartime footage. "We had to prove to them that what they were seeing wasn't real," Howard later recalled. "That's when we knew we'd succeeded." The techniques developed for the Battle of Britain would influence aerial filming for decades, though the process remained incredibly expensive and time-consuming. What made the effects particularly impressive was that they were achieved without computer technology, relying entirely on optical and mechanical methods. Number 18. The secret competition with another war film. The Battle of Britain was not made in a vacuum, it was racing against another major war film. What audiences did not know was that throughout its production, the film was in an undeclared competition with Patton, which was being developed simultaneously in Hollywood. Both films aimed to be the definitive World War II epic of their generation, with both studios vying for the same historical consultant, military equipment, and even release dates. The competition became particularly intense when both films needed similar military hardware for their production. United Artists and 20th Century Fox engaged in behind-the-scenes bidding wars for vintage tanks, aircraft, and military uniforms. In one instance, the Battle of Britain lost out on several authentic German military vehicles that went to Patton instead. It was like another war being fought in boardrooms and backlots, recalled producer S. Benjamin Fiss. We weren't just making movies, we were trying to make the better movie. The rivalry extended to marketing, with both films eventually being released within months of each other, though Patton would ultimately dominate the award season, while the Battle of Britain struggled commercially. Number 19, the controversial editing choice that changed the film's meaning. The Battle of Britain was not just filmed, it was radically reimagined in the editing room. What audiences did not know was that the film's original cut had a significantly different tone and structure, with more emphasis on the German perspective. Director Guy Hamilton's first version included nearly 30 minutes of additional scenes focusing on Luftwaffe, pilots, and commanders, creating a more balanced view of the conflict. Studio executives, concerned that this approach might alienate British audiences, demanded extensive cuts. The most controversial edit removed a subplot showing German pilots questioning their orders and expressing doubts about the war. These scenes were replaced with additional footage of British civilians and military preparations. What we originally had was more complex and morally ambiguous, Hamilton later complained. What they wanted was a straightforward good versus evil story. The editing process became so contentious that Hamilton briefly removed his name from the project, though he was ultimately credited as director. The original cut was reportedly destroyed, though rumors persist that a print survives in the United Artists Archive. Number 20, the shocking real-life romance that threatened the production. The Battle of Britain was not just about combat, it was complicated by a real-life love affair. What audiences did not know was that during filming, stars Michael Caine and Susanna York began a passionate relationship that created tension on set and nearly derailed the production. The affair was particularly problematic because both actors were married to other people at the time. Their relationship became impossible to hide when York's husband discovered their involvement and visited the set, creating a scene that required intervention from security. The scandal threatened to generate negative publicity just as the film was facing mounting production challenges. Director Guy Hamilton was forced to mediate between the actors and their respective spouses, while studio executives grew increasingly concerned about the potential impact on the film's release. We were making a movie about national unity while our lead actors were creating personal chaos, Hamilton later recalled. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The affair eventually ended, but not before causing significant delays and requiring careful management of the actors' schedules to minimize on-set tension. Bonus fact, the secret government planned to use the film for recruitment. The Battle of Britain was not just entertainment, it was a recruitment tool. What absolutely no one knew until classified documents were declassified in 2019 was that the British government secretly planned to use the film as part of a campaign to boost enlistment in the Royal Air Force. By the late 1960s, the RAF was facing a serious recruitment crisis, with applications declining by nearly 40% from previous decades. The Ministry of Defense worked directly with United Artists to embed subtle recruitment messaging throughout the film. This included ensuring that RAF uniforms appeared particularly impressive, highlighting the camaraderie among pilots and emphasizing the technological sophistication of modern aircraft. Even more surprisingly, the government funded special advanced screenings for young men in targeted recruitment areas, with RAF representatives on hand to answer questions about military careers. The most secret aspect of this arrangement was a contingency plan to release a shortened version of the film specifically for recruitment centers if the full theatrical version performed poorly commercially. We saw the film as a 2-hour recruitment advertisement, revealed one declassified memo. The fact that it was also entertainment was a bonus. This covert recruitment aspect of the film's production and distribution was kept completely secret for over 50 years. 50 years after its release, The Battle of Britain remains more than just a war film. It is a time capsule of a particular moment in British history and filmmaking. The controversies and conflicts behind its creation did not diminish its achievements. They enhanced it, infusing every frame with a tension and authenticity that could not be manufactured. What is most remarkable about the Battle of Britain is how it transcended its troubled production to become something genuinely special. The personal traumas, professional conflicts, and political battles that raged behind the scenes somehow found their way into the film, creating a work that captured not just the historical events but the emotional truth of those who lived through them. The film's legacy extends far beyond its artistic merits. It preserved rare vintage aircraft that might otherwise have been lost to history, inspired generations of aviation enthusiasts, and documented flying techniques that would otherwise have been forgotten. The aerial sequences remain breathtaking today, even in an age of CGI effects, because what audiences are seeing is real aircraft, real pilots, real danger. Perhaps most importantly, the Battle of Britain stands as a testament to the ambition of 1960s filmmaking, an era before risk-averse studio executives and focus groups transformed cinema into a predictable enterprise. The film's producers and director gambled everything on their vision, nearly bankrupting themselves and endangering their cast and crew in the process. The next time you watch the Battle of Britain, remember the near-fatal accidents, the secret government funding, the controversial editing choices, and the passionate affairs that threatened to derail the production. Remember that what you are seeing is not just a recreation of history, it is the product of its own kind of battle, fought in boardrooms, on location, and in the skies over England. That is the real magic of cinema, the ability to transform chaos into art, conflict into creativity, danger into something beautiful and lasting. The Battle of Britain is not just a great film, it is a survivor, just like the pilots it portrays. If you enjoyed these behind-the-scenes revelations, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We have got more shocking secrets about classic films coming your way. And let's know in the comments which movie you would like us to expose next.